Okay, morning session we were seeing about creating a layout according to our requirement. Of course, what we ended seeing the layout, and we came to know about various selectors. In this case, we have put the three selectors into use. A tag selector, which consists of the same name of the tag itself. In this case, this is a tag selector example. An ID selected based on the ID given to the box element. In this case, the ID has been given for H1. So that follows the rules defined by style sheet with a has prefixed. And the third one, class selector, which quite common, and it is very flexible, and of course I can force the style sheet using the attribute value specified to a class. So this is what we saw. Of course, the true benefit of HTML5, I was talking about addition of couple of tags, especially semantic tags, which is same like a conventional box-based design, but it gives a flexible way to identify the content, especially for the search engines to scan through. That we'll put together instead of a div. We'll try is there any possibility we could replace them with the semantic elements, and also we will populate some contents. So right now we have only done a design, and that too it's not pretty perfect because the content is not there, and of course it doesn't look much better. So for that, first I'm going to replace certain elements, or especially DOM, with semantic elements. So what I prefer, let me add one more file instead of this. So new page. Once I create a new page, if I hit and run, it always load the index page. So my page dot html. It's not new page, sorry. Okay, so the page is running. Let us put back whatever the design we created. So it will also help us to treat it as a recap. Before that, I want to use kind of semantic elements, but so let me first start adding the style sheet. I prefer to have a body with the margin set for 0. When you put a 0, you can omit the pixel or unit size. So you don't need to put a 0 px. Of course, that will also will work, but you can put a 0 directly. We have various units such as px, like pixel, em, millimeter, centimeter, cm. There are various absolute or maybe uh, abstractive values exist. Right now, all you need to understand, we are going to widely use the pixel. Pixel is a kind of aspect ratio of your screen. Pixel mean not the exact size. For example, 10 pixel may be looking uh, smaller in a bigger screen. The same may be looking accordingly same size when you look the same in this small screen as well. So it will maintain the aspect ratio. Typically, it is considered as a oh, one part of 99 pixels, something like that. So I'll give you the exact dimension, what exactly the pixel means. But as of now, we are going to take the pixel px as a default unit size. Of course, centimeter, millimeter also we can use. Those are all absolute values. So a centimeter may be looking better in a bigger screen, may not be looking better in a smaller screen. So we better stay away with the absolute value units. So So right now I'm going to stick to a pixel to start with. Let's see if any instance comes where we may need to change the unit size. Okay, so margin I set to 0. This is to make sure I don't want to have any white space for the subsequent elements or maybe the tags which I'm going to add. So the same procedure I also did in the previous exercise. Now I'm going to keep one. This other suggestion comes from the previous exercise. Anyway, never mind. This has nothing to do with the previous one, just gives you a suggestion. The NetBeans trying to give you a kind of suggestion, so it is no way connected with the previous page. So I want to keep the same, say this time for better control. I want to keep 1000 pixel width for a container. Min height to start with I'll keep, later I'll remove it. And a background. Before giving background, one more property also I would like to tell. Of course, the last exercise I gave margin, various margin like margin bottom 0, margin, sorry, let us keep it in some order. 0, margin left I gave auto. This is what I gave in the previous exercise, I hope you remember. And also let me give a background so that that particular box, the block, uh, is visible. I mean with some different colors, so once I put it may look with some colors being filled with that. I'll remove this div, I mean the content of the div, and declare okay, looks nice. Few things. Is there a shortest way? Like I'd like to introduce a shorthand property of the margin and padding as well. If you want to define each and every element, you can do in this way. There is one more alternate also exists. I'm just going to comment the block. Be careful on commenting. Sometimes that will also end up messing your style sheet. Sometimes it, for example, this is the safest one, keeping the slash and star, which will comment your entire block. I hope NetBeans also have a shortcut to toggle between comment and uncomment. We'll have to find that. So instead of writing this, there are a couple of other alternatives. If I keep margin instead of bottom, light, left, whatever it is, which I think I already did in the uh, tag selector body, it means all the four sides is going to take a 0 pixel. Mean if you do not specify bottom, top, left, right, it is understandable. All the four sides going to take the margin 0 pixel. Okay, this is one of a shorthand property. Shorthand means just a kind of a adjustable one. And if you specify margin 0 space auto, there's a space exist. In this case, what it does mean, you should be very careful. The first one is for top and bottom. The second one is left and right. This is one of a shorthand property, like the two values being given. The first one takes a top and bottom as a pair. Both have been given 0. The second one is the value for the left and right direction. This is very important if you are using shorthand properties, if you don't want to write much large number. For example, this particular line is exactly equivalent to the above one which I commented. The bottom and top has been set to 0 and the left and right are set to auto. With one single line, I can replace all the four ones which I have applied. You see, I don't get something is going wrong here. It is because of the commenting. See, the commenting is also very important. The safest comment would be this one. Works. So instead of defining all the four, I can define this way. Okay. And I have one more. Margin 0, 2, 0. This is a shorthand property with the three values. In this case, the first one is for top, second is left and right together, third one is bottom. This is how the word W3C recommends a configuration. Do not have to infer from it. This is the strict rule you have to follow. Don't say why they have given like this, but this is the rule. So when you have a shorthand property with the two values or arguments specified, it always understood the first one goes for top and bottom, and the remaining is given for the left and right. If you have three values specified for the same margin, the first one always go for a top, the middle goes for a left and right, and the last one goes for a bottom. If you have all the four defined, then respectively, also I'll tell you, 0, auto, 0, clockwise, top, right, bottom, left. You can directly specify the above one. Remember the I individually define the margin, but these are all the other equivalents. So either a margin can be defined through a shorthand property such as with the 2, 3 and 4 arguments. If you are defining the margin with two arguments, the first one is always taken for top and bottom together, and the remaining goes for a left and right. If the margin contains three arguments, the first one goes for a top, the middle one goes for a left and right, and the last one goes for a bottom. If you define the margin with the four arguments, it goes with the order top, right, bottom, left. This order is very important. So you may choose any one of the. If you have a confusion, you can very well have a specific style attribute taken for it, and then you can define. Be careful on commenting as well. Commenting sometime may exploit your actual design. So I'm going to comment one more time. Don't know the short key. For safer side. I prefer this one instead of the other one. I'm just going to keep this alone. Margin 0 auto mean the top and bottom is going to be 0 pixel, left and right is going to be auto. I leave others as commented, so you can very well follow them if required. These kind of properties are called shorthand properties. Okay, so now we have a container ready for us. Within the container, I'm going to do a couple of other parts, but anyway, the style sheet I want to keep it same. I hope I still remember I had a header, left, right, main content and the footer like a bottom. So I'm going to recreate them again. Even though the width has gone slightly changed, same rule applies. And one more thing, almost div tag, or for example, this particular DOM is having a property actually which is making it as a box. It is because of the property mean display block is a property actually making your div element as a box. It is already there, you don't need to explicitly define it, but some tags might not be by default a box type. That time you may not get the expected output. That time if you want to see why it is not behaving as I expected, then you can cast this particular display block element, make the tag as the box based one, then it will start respecting your style sheets. We will end up seeing similar situation across when we start using our semantic tags. Let's see. Before that, I do not have Firefox, probably I have Safari. I'll also cross verify something. uh, I need to make sure it is working better across all other browsers as well. If you have Firefox, you can try that. Or do you have Firefox in your computer? I don't even test that at all. Don't consider that. So if you have other browser, keep verifying. But I have a Safari here, so I want to verify. If I see unusual behavior, I may fix that. Okay, I'm about to add a header, a minimum height, say some 100 pixel, width I have specified. Background of, and also keep a habit of float left for the any inner child elements, so that the available free space would be occupied from the leftmost direction. Most of the modern day browser always occupy the boxes from the leftmost position only as default one, but there may be some exceptions. So having this property declared would help you to reduce the burden if you have some kind of debugging error or something which is not coming properly according to your expectation. So I would recommend keep the float. I'm just trying to say float, not the float left always. At least define the float attribute with some value. So float left, and in this case sometime I may use a float right also, but let us see if it is required. I'm going to give a background. This time I'm going to use a semantic tag called header. I think it is pretty confusing. I'll make it as a header bar, not to be confused with the one we just created. There is a semantic tag called header exist. Instead of having a div class header, instead of div, I'm just replacing with a tag called header, which will help your search engine to identify, okay, this is somewhere that name of the website is declared or some logo exists, something like that. But still need to give a style sheet or class selector, like it is nothing but a header bar. Let me see if I get expected behavior. Still Firefox. Okay, not bad. I got the header, but this time it's a semantic tag. It's not a div tag. I'll also verify it works perfect. Firefox, perfect. So instead of div, I use header. This is a semantic element. Okay. Next, left bar needed. So right, left and right bar needed, right? So let me create left. It's called left now. 200 pixels. So we'll give what's some min height I gave 800 pixels. So let me give some 600 pixels. It's also going to keep float left with the background. Seriously, I have no idea. Color selections. This time I'm going to use a side in sidebar. Instead of a div element, I'm choosing a side. So that class is going to be left. Good. Okay. So left navigation and right navigation. Of course, the same stuff, maybe with a different background. Control space is a shortcut to bring the code suggestion. So it is going to be one more. Of course, I need a section or maybe let's see list of semantic tags. There are plenty of semantic tags exist. So semantic tags, remember, it is nothing to do with your UI or anything at all. It's just a box, a kind of a div like that. It's only the name is relevant for the search engine. So I'm going just trying to give a search engine stating that this is a sidebar exists here, and this is where the content exists here. This is where the summary exists. This is where the article exists. This is where the section exists. It is only for the guidance for your search engine. Otherwise, it is nothing to do with the code look and feel. The look and feel is always happening with the help of the style sheet elements what you have specified. Only difference, instead of div, I've used the semantic tag. This is only for the search engine to go through, and of course I can bring that explanation from semantic. W3 school is one of the right resource, but yeah, these are so many semantic tags exist: article, aside, details, figure, caption, footer, header, main, mark, nav. Of course, a nav also I can use. Section, summary. These are all the tags included in your HTML draft, so can be used. So of course, the name itself very relevant. I think in the box itself is telling them like where to keep header, footer, a side or something. Of course, we have already used the header and side. So section and article. So maybe what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep some section. The middle part is going to be a section for me. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to create a section. I'll keep an article because I don't have much section in this case. Inside article I may keep various sections, so that's also pretty obvious. And that article actually we defined as main in the previous exercise. So with 200, 200, 400 gone and 600 is available because the total width in this case is 1000. It's also going to keep a float left, background. So the article section is going to be like this. And one more sidebar section aside, which is going to be for my navigation bar called right navigation. So I've got the header and two bars to the left and right and the center bar for my content. I made that as an article section, or maybe you can make it section. There is no pretty convention stating that this should proceed, this should succeed, or something like that. Anything can have, only the requirement is to have a nested elements. So instead of article, you can keep section or whatever it is. It is only for, that's why semantic tags nothing to do with your design. It's simply to a kind of helper tags, so that any search engine robots or any spider scripts run through your content can pick the content effectively. That's the reason. And I also have one more tag called footer that I am going to define as a footer. I make it as a footer bar so that not to get confused with the attribute style sheet with the given one. Width is going to be 1000 pixel. Minimum height 100 pixel. It's also going to float to the left. I'm going to make this as a footer bar. So I'm done pretty much. But this is now I can get rid of the minimum height. Don't need to have that as a reference. I also need to verify if it works perfect in my Safari. Looks fine. Few more considerations. In few versions before Chrome, I don't know, Chrome or Firefox, did not consider the semantic elements as a box type. That time I had to add one small fix, like what are all the semantic elements I have used: header, aside, article, something like that. So let me define that. Article, footer, figure for my images, uh, figure caption for the alternate text which is going to be displayed. If I may go ahead and use them, I had to add this particular element at the very beginning, making or forcing the browser to understand whenever you find tags like these, treat it as a block, nothing but treat it as a div tag. How the div tag behave, the same way this also should behave. This is what I had to add few versions back. Now it is not required. Maybe the browsers got updated and treating the box, I mean treating the semantic tags also as a box. But this is a best fix. For example, if your application had to run slightly a older version of a browser, you may go ahead and add this particular block. Depends. I think the Firefox had that issue, I remember, but I'm not very sure because I don't have Firefox to test now. But this is the way to force a particular tag and treat it as a block, nothing but a box. Div by default considers as boxes, but whereas I haven't used any div tag here, so I've used only one div tag, which is a container I have used. The rest of the elements are semantic based, so it is better to add this fix if you are expecting a smoother response across all the browser type. Oh, this is not mandatory even though, but I prefer to have this on board. Okay, now I'm going to slightly mess up the code, maybe trying to confuse you slightly. Header. Let me put H1. First one, the font is not looking properly because the dark background of my header does not suit very well for the font which is having another darker I mean color as a background, so I need to change the font color. And the second one, I don't want to see my text touching exactly to the border. I want to have some small intent spacing, like some level of spacing the content could start. If you notice, most of the websites, I think I have used one website. You see, there is a small spacing between the elements that makes the content spacing proper. So they are giving a space, nobody touching the borders. So we also need to maintain that style. So is there any way I could achieve it? Yes, we have a way. Should be very careful. So this particular H1 alone, I want to keep it as a font color, the text color white. So I prefer to have a ID selected in this case. So app heading, something name I'm going to specify. Let me add that. Color attribute will give a font color when you keep it to white. Okay, it has become white now. Let me add a margin 10 pixel on. So if I give a margin in this way, it is understandable. The text is going to contain top 10 pixel, left 10 pixel, bottom 10 pixel, and the left 10 pixel margin given. Mean there will be a white space would be given in all the four directions, because I have used a shorthand property here. If you notice, a small space has been got added on the top also, and maybe bottom we could not realize because there is plenty of space available. Right also we may not be realizing whether the space is being taken or not. That's where your debugging tools comes in handy. I'm going to see how the spacing being given. If you notice, is visible or not, I don't know. These are all the tags as I highlight. Okay, header 1000 pixel width and height 100 pixel. Okay, within the header there is one more h1, and if you notice app heading, it has occupied the entire width, it looks like, but there is a spacing, top 10 pixel, left 10 pixel, right 10 pixel, bottom 10 pixel. That's so if you notice there is a highlight of a kind of a gray area along with the blue, means there is some 10 pixel margin got added, mean outside of the content there is a 10 pixel white space has got added. So using your Chrome developer tools, I can identify how the content is spreading by highlighting or I mean hovering over to that particular element. If I notice the side, okay, it is exactly, there is no margins, main, exact width and height, and right navigation, of course, and of course the footer is at the bottom. If you notice, one more thing is also visible here. This value may vary because this particular browser, my browser which is running, having a width of some sort of 1320 pixel, it may be different across the different device. So how the margin and borders been laid out, it will give you an overview, but as of now you may simply go ahead and do it. See, these are all the things, it is not required, it is saying, but typically I had to use it to force the content does not give any white space on the top and bottom. But of course it gives me a various option to audit my content on how things being spread across. So you may be using this particular tool quite a lot to identify, or if anything goes wrong, you may identify what exactly has gone wrong. See, for example, my app heading has occupied the entire width. This is a kind of a news for me, even though I did not specify what is the width. So let me see if I can do something. I only worried about margin left 10 pixel is more than enough for me to give a spacing. Okay, so in this case I have only given the margin space to the left. I don't mind whatever the size it comes, because see, if you notice the upper margin slightly larger looks like, but of course it is nothing to do with me. I only worried about the margin side which is given left. So only this would be enough for me instead of defining all the four, but defining four also may not cause any problem. So defining a margin for this element, I did not see a serious problem so far. But this is a left navigation bar. I am giving a margin to the left navigation bar, mean the left one is nothing but this one. I am giving 10 pixel margin. See what exactly going to happen. Something terribly got messed up. One thing, the right bar disappeared, and I seriously noticed some sort of white space between the boxes, and I notice this particular left bar has slightly showing below or maybe after the white space, and it has occupied some additional spacing. That's the reason there is no room for the right bar to appear. It has gone to the bottom of the particular screen. So this is some slight issue, and instead of margin, if I define a padding, first point, nothing seriously look like change, but the right bar disappeared. The right bar has gone down. Left bar is there intact, and of course besides there is a middle content which is also there, but the right bar missing. It has gone down. I'm going to shift between margin and padding. I'd like to know if somebody could differentiate the difference between the margin and padding. This is margin. That also gave me the same behavior, but there is a white space.
With padding, the white space got filled up. The left parts with padding.
Once again, what is that?
With padding, the white space left over by the navigation bar, it got filled up.
Filled up. Without padding, without margin, how it will work? Initially, I did not put anything, right? I put some content now so that we'll at least differentiate it. Now I put a margin. The content still touching the borders, but the border itself got retracted looking like, because the box itself slightly below and the content still touching the border. But now instead of margin, going to keep padding. Now the content does not touch the border. Of course it is also looking like it is proper. Of course this is what we were expecting, but still the right bar disappeared. My requirement, the content should not touch the border. To achieve that, I either need to provide margin or padding. Margin, okay, it doesn't look like proper, but padding I provided, which I got the required behavior, but the right bar disappeared. So how I am going to fix it?
So content.
Which one?
So content.
If you could speak louder, other people will also get it.
Reduce the pixel size of content width.
Which one?
The content one.
Content
So
one
that
means
you
the
can
middle
fill-
one you are talking.
Yeah.
Can you justify why should I need to reduce it?
Because it has increased in the left
Who has increased?
automatically.
Left bar size increase, or middle bar size increase, or right bar size increase?
The left bar size has increased.
Okay. First point to be taken, a padding is the spacing between the content and the box. Additional space has got added with the 10 pixel top, left, right, bottom. It means the effective size or effective width of the left navigation bar right now 220 pixel. Mean left 10 pixel, right 10 pixel. So effective width of your left navigation bar right now increased to 220 pixel because the additional padding space which has got added. How I can find it, if you make use of same, if you notice the aside it is saying 220 pixel this time. It means the padding to the left, padding to the right has taken 10 pixel each. So effective size has got changed to 220 pixel. So this particular box has taken 220 pixel. The remaining 600 pixel was taken by, of course, the container. The last one will need additional 200 pixels, but what it may have, it's only 180 pixel. 180, I remember, right? 20 pixel gone.
Right.
So that's the only remaining. That's the reason there is no further space it has gone down. To fix that, I may have to slightly do a mathematics again. There are possible fixes. Reduce the size of left navigation bar to 180 pixels so that the effective size always remain 200 pixel. Now it's fine. So effective size still 200 pixel. The intent spacing or the padding space has been given for 10 pixel in each direction. So it has brought back the remaining the right bar to the same place. But still one problem. See, this guy has taken slightly because the shorthand property not only added the padding to the left and right alone, it also added the property to the top and bottom as well. If you want to prevent, you can use the other one like top bottom 0 10 pixel. This you can add, but still not good. The top also I may need some spacing because it is still touching. So what I can do, that is the final fix maybe. Reducing the minimum height to 20 pixel lesser, so 580 pixel. So this makes my design still keep the same effective width and height. Since I have given the padding to give an intent spacing between the content and the border, padding always take a inner side. For example, the spacing between the box boundary and inside content. Whereas the margin, it's outside spacing between the border and where the parent tag is reside. So margin, for example, you can even define it for if you are in your high school, you will use your answer sheet. You put a margin, right? The margin is nothing but you are going to keep the content away from the actual spacing. So that's the same thing. So margin will totally keep your along with the box. It will add some additional space. It is always considered as a outside spacing of the particular given content, whereas the padding will add additional space within the border and the content. So adding the particular padding value will increase the effective size of your dog itself. So be careful when you use a padding or margin. Margin could be useful when you are using specific elements such as ID type. That's what the margin found to be very helpful when I try to add a margin property to H1. In this case, I didn't find any problem. But whereas if you want to give a margin or similar spacing between the DOM itself, it is recommended to use the padding. If you use padding, make sure you adjust the effective width also, because the padding tend to increase the effective size of your DOM. A lot of people still confused with that, but if you are using the padding or trying to give an indent spacing between the content, adjust the size accordingly. Now time to add some more relevant contents. So I want some pictures. I'm going to keep some article here. This is something talks about APJ Abdul Kalam. There is a content. See, it doesn't look proper. All contents are touching the border. Now I need to give intent spacing. Okay, we know the trick already. So I'm going to give a padding 10 pixel. So what I have to touch without doing anything. Of course, looks perfect. Right bar again got affected. So now I need to do adjustments. Since padding added both the side, I need to change the effective width to 580 pixels and height also 580 pixels. Now things will be proper again. Let me have some other information instead of. This side part, we'll put some more information. Just randomly copy pasting. Okay, so see, the size has got increased automatically because we have only given the minimum height. When the content size automatically adjusted when the particular content finds, or I mean it needs additional space, mean automatically the size would be adjusted. So if you have a longer content, I would recommend keep everything in the article section itself. Whatever shorter content is there, only the menu kind of thing, you can keep it in the left or right bar to keep the specification perfect, because it may not be looking proper when one sidebar simply get elongated. Whereas the content size get increased, mean no problem, nobody is going to mind. So this left bar I'm going to keep it as a my further navigation part. I'm going to keep an unordered list there, UL. Unordered lists are wrapped within the list element. It is the left or right. This is unordered list for my link. For further link, I can take the user to some other page, but as of now, nothing. Maybe I'll expand it a little later. This is called unordered list. We have one more list called ordered list, OL. Both are wrapped under the list element. OL and UL is nothing. Unordered means it will only put a bullet points. Ordered means it will put a number. That's the reason it is called ordered or unordered. But both are going to keep the content one by one. So you can either choose one for your purpose, and probably we may still override that using our style sheet and modify its behavior. We can make it as a block. so that it looks like a box. That also we can do. So I'll go ahead with the unordered list. A unordered list always start with the tag and ends with the UL, and within the tag there should be elements wrapped within LI list element, and then it can follow various other links. If you want to make it as a link, you can wrap it within the uh, hyperlink, or maybe popularly we call them as a href element. I'll give the link name a little later. There is no file as of now, but simply I'm giving so that it will look like a hyperlink. Wrap it within the href tag and make sure it is wrapped within the content. The hyperlink find the place within the name attribute called href. Now if you look at slightly blue icon, when you move the mouse or maybe the cursor over it, looks like the hand symbol coming, like it tells that it is a link. So clicking that, the user may be navigated to that link. We do not have such a link as of now. So my recommendation is always keep such navigation in the left or right bars, and put your content, the main content, whatever you're going to display with the images or sections or articles, keep in the center or whatever space available after the navigation bar. Because there is a guarantee that most of the time the link would be lesser, the content may get elongated according to the size. So I've kept one unordered list over there. Let me slightly add few more properties. First point, the dot disappeared, and I'm defined a tag selector for list elements because the list is being repeated here. I'm going to treat the list as a box. I'm forcing it. It is not just some other element. It is going to be behave as a div tag. It's a box element hereafter. Now I can go ahead and give a say. I can give a margin. That will be good. Say 10 pixel. When I give a margin, the spacing got added. Mean it is a box with some margin has got added. How I find it, maybe we need a inspect element. If you see, the each element is treated as a box. It looks like a box with some padding also added. The size currently it is taken is 120 pixel and 18 pixel height. It may vary depending on your browser size, but all I can say, it has been treated as a box, like a div. So you can any point of time you can convert any tag as a box, treat it as a box, and give a floating property to the left, right, or whatever direction you want. And you can even give a background so that the box may contain some background. So look and feel, it may look like a button. So whatever thing you can do. But our intention not to play around much with the list element as of now. We have much more things to do. So I'm going to stop here itself, and then I'm going to add a couple of images. So that's also missing in our content. Where Abdul Kalam images available? I do have. Save the image. I'm going to copy the image to my project. So the image is locally copied here. Now I'm going to add an image within the article section. Semantic tag recommends to use a figure uh, tag to define any images in between. So figure, inside I can keep a image img for the recommended tag for calling the image. Define the source, give the path of your image. If you have a specific requirement or width or height, you can define. I would recommend either define width or height, don't define both. I'll let you know why. You don't need to define pixel 200 or something. And giving a kind of alternate text. Due to some reason the image does not load, at least the text would be displayed. Okay. We have an image. Since the image has come, the content has gone down. And okay, that's, so we don't worry about the content space adjusted. Why we waste this space? Why do we really waste this space? Why we can use the content to spread here also? To make that happen, I can define the inline style attribute as well. Instead of writing everything in the topmost style shape area where you are writing here, but sometimes you don't want to again write it. Instead, you can directly specify a style attribute to the element as well directly. So I'm going to say float right. Keep the image in the right direction. The image has gone right, the rest of the content has occupied the available space. It means, first point, unless and otherwise I do not define the floating capability of floating attribute, the particular tag was not accepted as a box. Because the box only have the capability of occupying the remaining space when it is allocated. So once I define the float property, it behaved as a box, and since the box has taken the rightmost space, the remaining space were available to the content to occupy. Before the time, it was not treated as a box. So that's the interpretation in this case. Let me see why it behaved in that way. I'm going to remove one more time and then go with the inspect element. It was a figure. If you notice, the figure has totally occupied the entire space when it is defined. Say it has occupied 500 pixel and the size height of the image something 238 pixel maybe. So the image itself took all the space. Now I need to tell him, no, you should not take all the space, only take the space available for you, and also maintain a floating property. Already this figure we made it as a box because that property we have already declared on the top. The figure is a box type, but only thing it is occupying the entire space. So to reduce it, I added a style attribute and float right or left I can give, maybe left also I can give. So I'm going to give left. Content exactly restricted within and the remaining space automatically given to the content or maybe the article to spread across. So these are all the behaviors of your HTML. Of course, this is a way you can force the content to occupy a given spacing. Browser to browser, the default behavior may vary. I cannot guarantee that this is the default behavior. Always, if you do not define anything, it will occupy this much spacing or something like that. I cannot say that because I already told you in the very first session, initial days, browser or any other, manufacturer or OEMs do not follow any, or they did not follow any guidelines or any standardization. Later, World Wide Web Consortium formed, and they started recommending various features or various, procedures to have the content spread. Late point of time, only things started becoming standardized. So now we still have, because HTML5 is still in a draft mode, there may be unusual behavior expected. To avoid that, do not pre-conclude anything as if okay, this is what it is going to be. Unless and otherwise the tag which is the sufficient argument defined, nothing is going to be respected. That's why I said, even though I'm very sure I got my desired output, but I still went ahead and declared all the semantic tags as a box. It still worked without that also, but I don't want to pre-conclude anything. It may work for this browser, it may not work for other browsers, so I kept it. And also, only the box element can only have a kind of a desired floating capability. So I concluded the list also with made it as a box and started giving the margin property of whatever needed. The benefit of keeping as a box, I can have a very clear guideline of where the content is going to occupy with a given free space available, and the box can have a uniform attribute value. For example, a button is nothing but a box with some coloring field, so that we call it button, a kind of rectangular box with some colors with the text in center, that we call it as a button. So any kind of a UI could be built with a box based design, so I prefer to have everything as a box based design. I have only used only one div tag, which is a wrapper for entire content. I named it as a container, and I also used the shorthand property for margin and padding. I've already explained how the shorthand properties work, and whatever comfortable you can go ahead and use it. Deed of keeping the floating value to the left gives me an idea like okay, any free space available and would be occupying, the boxes would be start occupying from the leftmost direction. So I kept the float left for all the box elements. Even though the right navigation bar is going to be in the right direction, I still kept it for a float because start occupying from the leftmost direction. So not to be confused with the right navigation bar should have a floating value right. If you keep it also, does not make any difference. And of course others, and margin may work well for ID selector because the IDs usually we conclude in the very rare conditions, and of course it is unique to the particular element alone, so margin won't disturb much. But if you are defining margin for your boxes, maybe for div or any semantic tags, you may expect a white space because margins added outside of your content area. If you are defining padding, make sure you adjust your effective width and height of your boxes so that it will maintain same aspect. If you are using images, the suitable semantic tag for your image is called figure now. Instead, you can use div also. If I had used the image in my previous exercise, I would have used div here. Otherwise, I could have treated the image itself with the ID attribute defined. For that, I could have given the floating value or whatever definitions for that. Images, I would recommend either keeping the width or height defined because, for example, I'm not sure about the size of the image. It looks like pretty larger, but when I give width 200, say like I'm going to make it as 100. When I force the image view to 200 or 100, the height is automatically adjusted so that the image does not look stretched or blurred. If you give both the values, you may not be knowing the suitable aspect specifier so that the image quality would not get disturbed. So let me see if I can do that. This is really bad because I gave both the values. I don't know whether if I give 100 that according to the what is the actual value for height, I may not be able to calculate it because the image size may be of any size. We take this call. 1 second.